Locked On has released its top 100 players in the NHL. We'll talk about which Islanders made it, which didn't, and whether the team got treated fairly. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com. And win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show. The Locked On Top 100 Players in the NHL finally released. We had a lot of fun doing it. We'll talk about which Islanders made it, whether they were judged fairly, and maybe some omissions that may have happened in this top 100. Let's see if you agree with our picks. We also have the preseason coming to an end with a win. We'll break some of that down, and we'll talk a little bit more about where Ritchie feels he's at as this season approaches. Plus, we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day. Let's start with the top 100. And first, I'll give a little explanation of how this was done. Every Locked On host was asked to put forth 3 or 4 players, up to 5, who they felt belonged in the top 100. And then all of the hosts got the whole list, and we voted, ranked everyone from 1 to 100. We accumulated all of the numbers, and this is what our experts came up with. And 2 Islanders made this list. And I put forth 3 Islanders that I thought were top 100 worthy, but only 2 of them made the list. Ilya Sorokin, no surprise, was ranked as the best player on the Islanders. He was 33rd overall in the league. And then, well, guess who? Mathew Barzal. He was the other player ranked. He came in at 69. And quickly, for those of you on YouTube, we're going to show you the top 100. Connor McDavid at 1, Nathan McKinnon, Leon Draisaitl, Cale Makar, Nikita Kucherov, that's the top 5. 6 through 10, Austin Matthews, Connor Hellebuck, Kirill Kaprizov, Alexander Barkov, and Quinn Hughes. From 11 to 20, Pasternak, Crosby, Rantanen, Eichel, Marner, Matthew Tkachuk, Miro Heiskanen, Igor Shesterkin, Jack Hughes, and Rasmus Dahlin. So that is your top 20. Braden Point, Victor Hedman, Artemi Panarin, William Nylander, Zach Werenski, Alexander Ovechkin, Sam Reinhart, Sebastian Aho of Carolina, Mark Scheifele, and Andrei Vasilevsky go up to 30. And in the 30s, Jake Ottinger, Roman Josi, Ilya Sorokin, as I mentioned, Tage Thompson, Jake Gensel, Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk, Charlie McAvoy, Adam Fox at 39, and Nico Hischier at 40. When you get into the 40s, Jesper Bratt, Kyle Connor, Josh Morrissey, Sam Bennett, Evan Bouchard at 45, Brandon Hagel, Sergei Bobrovsky, Robert Thomas of the Blues at 48, Shea Theodore at 49, and Lucas Raymond at 50. Jacob Slavin at 51, Matt Boldy, Jake Sanderson, Jason Robertson, I think a little low there, Clayton Keller, Devon Taves, former Islander at 56, Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, Nick Suzuki, and Philip Forsberg in the 60 spot. Then we go. Seth Jarvis, Dylan Larkin, Moritz Seider, Connor Bedard, Rupe Hintz, Thomas Harley, Joel Eriksson Ek, Macklin Celebrini at 68, Mathew Barzal of the Islanders at 69, Gustav Forsling in the 70 spot. Then it's Marchenko, Saros, Natchez, Konechny, Olmark, Dylan Strome at 76, Adrian Kempe, Vince Dunn, Malkin at 79, and Darcy Kemper at 80. When you get into the 80s, Jordan Kyrou, Lane Hudson, Tom Wilson, Nikolai Ehlers, Jeremy Swayman, John Tavares at 86, Andrei Kopitar, Andrei Svechnikov, Anthony Cirelli, Philip Gustafson, and then rounding out the top 100, Mackenzie Weegar, William Eklund, Cole Caulfield, Jarrett McCann, Noah Dobson at 95. Kind of surprised he made this list. Matt Duchene, Logan Cooley, Brock Faber, Eric Carlson still making the list, and Tomas Hertl rounding it out there at number 100. And look, I think the big question is this. I think the two Islanders who made it deserve to be there. Ilya Sorokin at 33, that's a little high off of last year. But you look at the career that Sorokin has had. Just 2 years ago, he was a Vezina finalist. He doesn't have the best defense in front of him, and he certainly doesn't get a lot of offensive support. The Islanders were, 28th in the league in goals scored a year ago. He also, after the injury to Semyon Varlamov last year, did not have a reliable backup. So the Islanders played him too often and too many back-to-backs and too many games. I think in the last 2 years, he's had a couple of strings where he was playing in, 12 of 13 games, which just isn't tenable over the long haul for a goalie. So I feel he got his just desserts, and I was glad to see fellow Locked On hosts grading Sorokin where they did and not saying, oh yeah, he wasn't so good last year, we're going to grade him lower. And I think enough of them probably saw what Sorokin did against their teams to grade him higher. Now, Mathew Barzal at 69, I thought that was interesting. You go back 2 years ago, and he was a point-a-game player. Last year, as we know, injuries really derailing him. He was not able to play more than, 30 games. Didn't have a particularly productive year, even in that limited amount of playing time. So, you look back at the numbers, and Mathew Barzal had 6 goals and 20 points in 30 games. So, again, the fact that he was still 69th was a little bit encouraging in my mind. The skating ability and the passing ability, obviously his two biggest assets. And the thing about Barzal is when you watch him play, he stands out when he is skating with his A game. And that's always encouraging to see. You want him to shoot a little bit more. You want him to be a little bit more consistent. Hopefully this year he's healthy, and that will indeed happen. As for Bo Horvat, who was the third player I nominated, I wasn't going to nominate Matthew Schaefer before he's played an official NHL game. And I really didn't see any other Islanders players who I felt were in the 100 best players in the league. So I thought Bo Horvat should have made this list somewhere, again, toward the bottom of the top 100, but somewhere between 85 and 100. I could see Bo Horvat. And I think he didn't make it in part because he's not the flashy guy. Bo Horvat is the consistent guy, the guy who gets the job done without a lot of flash and dash. And I thought he deserved this spot. He did not get one. And I'm certainly interested in hearing from you, our viewers and our listeners, whether you thought, A, did Bo Horvat belong in the top 100? And B, what you thought about the rankings of Ilya Sorokin and Mathew Barzal. And, feel free to comment on YouTube. You could email me, again, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. You could DM me or comment on X, social media. But I'd love to hear what you all thought about these ratings. And, it was interesting to see how the top 100 came out. I'm going to put up the top 10 one more time. I mean, I had McKinnon ahead of McDavid, but again, I'm nitpicking. And I had Kucherov ahead of Makar. But I think the top 10 are pretty much, I think they got the players right. You can quibble a little bit if you want about the order that they came in. But it was an interesting show, and it was an interesting project. And I'm, again, pleased to see Sorokin and Barzal as high as they were. Disappointed that Bo Horvat did not make the top 100. And I thought, Canucks, hosts of Locked On Canucks, would put him higher. Not enough people did, apparently, and that's why he is where he is. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. The Islanders closed out the preseason on a winning note. We'll talk about that. We'll have some key takeaways from the game, and we'll also take a look ahead at Cal Ritchie and what he had to say. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a Toronto native, was a first-round pick of the Islanders in 1982. Let's see if you can guess who this forward is who joined the Islanders after the 1984 Olympics. So let's see if you can guess who it is. We'll talk about him and his impact on the team. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built same-game parlays to increase my odds. I've tried player props and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com. And if your first $5 bet hits, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Check it out today. So the Islanders preseason, it's over. And they won 2 out of 6 games, had, mixed results, basically, a few overtime losses and some losses. But there were some things to like in this 4-3 win over the Flyers. And, both teams played mostly regular guys. There's not a lot of those junior guys and AHL guys left. But, Jonathan Drouin, for example, did not play, missed practice, and did not play. So no surprise there. Kyle Palmieri did not dress for this game. No big shock there. And, again, you're giving some guys an opportunity. So Mark Gatcomb was in the lineup, Kyle McLean, Cal Ritchie, Adam Boqvist was playing. Again, you're giving some of these guys a chance. Ilya Sorokin goes all the way in goal. Islanders only gave up 21 shots on goal in this game, but 3 of them went in. So that was not what you want to see necessarily. But the best part, in my mind, the goal scorers in this game, included Anders Lee, so that shows he's kind of healthy. You had a goal from Emil Heineman, who I think, again, is going to surprise some people over the course of this season. I've had so many people tell me Islander fans are going to love Heineman. 5 shots on goal in this game for Emil Heineman and 5 hits in 14 and a half minutes of action. Always like a guy who can get physical. And Mark Atkin doing his thing physically as well. 4 hits in 12 minutes and 14 seconds of action. You get a goal from Adam Pelech, which is always good. But the other goal, the 4th goal out of the, not in order, but the other goal that I didn't mention yet, the first NHL goal in preseason for Maxim Shabanov. And that was great to see. It came on the power play and, it tied the game at 1-1, and it was great to see. So, the kid is showing his ability. And I really like watching him make plays. And, he took a good pass from Siplikov, redirected it, put it home, and got his first preseason NHL goal. You want to see, players who are making that adjustment. He went to the net. Good things happen, as you know, when you go to the net. And Shabanov did just that. And you want to see that. The kid is still learning. And it is going to be a process. No doubt it's going to be a process. So, there it was. And right now, and again, Patrick Waugh, as we know, mixes and matches the lines. But when everyone's healthy and everyone's playing, it looks like we're starting with Horvat, Drouin, and Palmieri on the top line. Barzal, Lee, and Duclair on the second line. Pajot, Holmstrom, and Shabanov on the third line. Cizikas, Heineman, and Siplikov on the fourth line. And again, we know Patrick Waugh is going to mix and match the lines. On defense, Romanov and D'Angelo, Pelech and Polak, Schaefer, and Mayfield looks like how we're going to line it all up once the games get underway. But special teams, a mixed bag. The Islanders did score a shorthanded goal, the Pelech goal. They scored a power play goal, the Shabanov goal, but they had one penalty kill and they gave up a goal. Noah Cates scoring for Philadelphia late in the second period on the same shift that Pelech scored, the same power play that Pelech scored the shorty for the Islanders, but Heineman gets the game winner and late in the game. And hey, look, it's preseason. In a week, no one will remember that the Islanders were 2-2-2 in the preseason. No one will care that they won this game or lost this game. It won't particularly mean anything. And yet, at the same time, you want to go out and finish the preseason on a winning note, and you want to get your team emotionally and physically ready for the regular season. We are less than a week away. The Islanders will be on the ice Thursday of next week, in 6 days from the time that this show goes live, to start the 2025-2026 NHL season. This is what we've been waiting for all off season long. And we, of course, here at Locked On Islanders will have this season covered every step of the way. So I'm looking forward to it. The offseason is always tough, and Islanders hockey is back. And we'll start to preview all of the games. We'll have our key takeaways, our hero and go to the game. Once the Bridgeport Islanders season starts, we will go back to the Farm Report every Wednesday. Looking forward to the season for sure. We've got more to get to on today's show. A little conversation with Cal Ritchie. He spoke to the media about where he's at, what he expects, and what he's working on in his game. We'll have our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. So, Cal Ritchie, again, probably going to start the season in Bridgeport. I think that's the wrong decision, but it does look like that's where he's going to end up. He did play on the penalty kill a bit in the preseason, was on a line with Sorokin, with Palmieri, depending on the game and the time. But here's what he had to say. It's been great, obviously. You get a chance to play with guys like Sorokin and Palmieri in games, and every shift you're learning. You're coming back to the bench, talking about what just happened, and you're picking up things every day from those guys. And Ritchie admitted last year, because he did start the season a year ago in Colorado with the Avs on the big team, scored only one goal in 7 games. And oh yeah, it came against Ilya Sorokin, right? But he talked about his comfort level. And he said it's not even comparable. Last year, I was struggling a lot in the D zone, giving up chances. This year, I feel way more comfortable in our structure, closing on guys, and not giving up much defensively. And he talked about going back to juniors last year to improve his work on the PK. He said, I wanted to be more well-rounded, not just power play, but PK too. I feel really comfortable out there now, even against top NHL players. I've always wanted to be that kind of player, good at all aspects of the game. I think I've made strides, especially defensively, and I just want to keep improving. And he also talked about Mathew, who is his roommate right now, saying he's awesome. His skating really stands out. Those back checks he's had are impressive. I played with him at World Juniors, and he's way better now. It's exciting to see how much he's improved. And look, I think Cal Ritchie is ready to play in the NHL now. The Islanders roster is, as everydayers will remember, we discussed yesterday, there's a glut at center. And unless the Islanders move a player, I think it is more likely that Cal Ritchie starts the season in Bridgeport. I would rather see him on the big club. You can move some of the guys like Casey Sorokin or J.G. Pageau from center to wing, or you could trade one of the veteran centers. But I do think I want to see Cal Ritchie sooner rather than later. If he's not going to start the season in the NHL, he's better defensively. He is certainly capable of playing well enough to be at least a third line forward, a third line center in this league right now. And it's interesting to hear him talk about the importance of defense. And it seems to be the way that players learn. They understand, and maybe they're told time and time again by their coaches, but they seem to understand that offense gets you drafted. And offense is important. If you don't have it, it limits your ice time, it limits your opportunities. But you stay in the NHL when you know how to play responsible defense. And the reason Cal Ritchie didn't make the Avalanche beyond 7 games a year ago was his struggles in his own zone. Now, some guys never overcome that. Some guys overcome it over time. I think Cal Ritchie is better enough after watching him this preseason that he's ready to be an NHL player on a regular basis, day in, day out. How quickly Mathew will make room for him, that remains to be seen. There is, again, 1 week between, a little less than a week between now and the start of the regular season when the roster has to be finalized, and we'll see how the Islanders front office handles Cal Ritchie and his status with the big club, or whether he goes down to Bridgeport. If he does go to Bridgeport, I have to say, I would tend to think he will be call-up number one, especially at center. And I think he's ready. I really, really think he's ready. I want to see the kids as a general overall proposition. To me, the goal of this season is to get more of the kids on the big roster and start to move away from some of the older players and the bad contracts that Lou left us with, and accelerate the retool of this team so that they can get to what Mathew Darsh described as his goal, which is being a perennial Stanley Cup contender. Not a team that barely makes the playoffs or barely misses the playoffs every year, but a perennial Stanley Cup contender. A team that at the start of every season for 5, 6, 8 years, like Colorado or Edmonton or Dallas or Florida or Tampa Bay in the last 5 years or so, all of those teams are perennial contenders. When the season starts and you're making your list of the top 5 or 6 teams that are going to win a Stanley Cup or have a good chance to win a Stanley Cup, those teams are always on the list. That's the goal for the New York Islanders. It won't happen right away. It'll take time to get these picks and prospects to reach the NHL, to adjust to the NHL, to get into their primes. But there is hope. And a year or two ago, there was a lot less hope. So let's hope that the Islanders can get to that place sooner rather than later. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 62nd birthday of former Islanders winger Pat Flatley, the Toronto native, a first-round pick of the Islanders in 1982. 21st overall, spent 2 years at the University of Wisconsin, represented Canada in the 1984 Olympics, and then joined the Islanders along with Pat LaFontaine after the 84 Olympics, and became a steady contributor, had a couple of 20-goal seasons, played with the Islanders from the end of the 83-84 season all the way through the 95-96 campaign, and then finished his career with 1 year with the Rangers in 96-97. Flatley, always a two-way player, physical, smart with the puck, had a great playoff as a rookie. 9 goals, 15 points in 21 games in 84 when the Islanders went to the Cup final but lost to Edmonton. Finished his NHL career with 780 games played, 170 goals, 510 points, and 686 penalty minutes. Add 18 goals and 33 points in 70 playoff games. All the points came with the Islanders. He did play 11 playoff games with the Rangers in 1997. One of his better games as an Islander, November 6th, 1985, Islanders visiting the old Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. Billy Smith and Don Edwards are the goalies in this one. And Toronto took a 2-0 lead on a pair of goals by Greg Terrion. But then Islanders go to the power play. Tom Fergus in the box for hooking. And our Islanders' birthday of the day, Pat Flatley, scores his 3rd goal of the season. Dennis Potvin and Dwayne Sutter with the assist. Islanders pull to within 2-1. Midway through the second, Flatley ties the game on an even strength goal. John Tonelli and Brian Trottier the assists. And then a little more than 3 minutes later, Flatley completes the hat trick. Trottier and Tonelli again on the helpers, this time on the power play with Rick Vave in the box for high sticking. That gives the Islanders a lead. And then late in the second period, Flatley scores again. John Tonelli gets the assist. And in the third, Flatley sets up Pat LaFontaine. Islanders go on to win this one 5-4. So the Islanders score 5 goals. Well, Pat Flatley had 4 goals and an assist. He was a +3. Of course, the one goal he scored or didn't score turned out to be the game winner, but a 5-point night for Pat Flatley. Had 4 goals on 5 shots. Pat Flatley, and don't forget Heels and Flats, that great in-between periods feature on Islander broadcasts back in the day. Pat Flatley is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. For your second listen, go find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Steele Roden and Flip Livingston provide daily fantasy tips to give you the edge over your league mates, all while making you a smarter hockey fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR vs NYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game, so join me for some instant insight and analysis. Everydayers, we are back on Monday as we gear up for the start of the new hockey season, and we'll have everything you need to get ready. We'll preview the season. We will talk about the last roster moves before the season starts and any other Islanders news, notes, and happenings. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.